I'm Chris O'Neill from Sew the Distance, and I'm back again with another Lessons from an Old Quilt, and this one is so pretty. Do I have it right? I do. This is an embroidered Sunbonnet Sue quilt. It's incredible, and I feel like I'm really not showing it. Let me show it better. Here we go. You can see the beautiful embroidered Sunbonnet Sues on this. And usually I don't do spring quilts this time of year just because, I don't know, I kind of want them to be seasonal. I'm not sure why, but I do. But this theory of being seasonal kind of went out the window because I love this one so much and I really wanted to show it. It is about 71 by 84, which is a twin size. I purchased it at an estate sale. Now the estate sale was a clean out from a hoarding situation. So when I got this, it was in really rough shape. I fell in love with it. I did take it home and immediately wash it. And I did wash it in the washing machine and I put it on a pre-soak and did all of that. There was some damage originally. I might have added to the damage a little bit, but it was the only way I knew to save this quilt. And it was the first day of the estate sale. So if you're used to going to estate sales like that, you know that the price is always higher. I probably could have got it for less the next day, but I couldn't risk it. There were other quilts there too that I did leave behind. I should have saved them too, but I didn't. Anyway, this one I believe is from the 1930s, 1940s. This yellow fabric had me stumped because it is a 30s print, but it's in remarkably good condition, which kind of threw me off a little bit. It may have been finished later, but there's other clues in this that tell me that it wasn't. This quilt is completely made by hand, and I can't wait to dig in and take a closer look. So let's do it. This is so pretty. I love it so much. All right, let's talk about the block. There are 20 of these blocks, and they measure from here to here, or here to here, however you want to say it, 9.5 inches square. This piece, this border around the block, which I absolutely love, is 1.5 inches. I just love that. I love that it looks like a frame, almost like a frame piece of art, and then the maker took the same fabric that is used for the background and used it for the sashing. I love it. Now this yellow fabric, like I said, it had me stumped a little bit because it is in such great shape. We see it repeated throughout this quilt, and we even have another border. So let me show you that. So to recap, we have this block, the border, the sashing, and then over here we have another border, and then the binding, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, is the same fabric too. So this fabric was used throughout this quilt, which I love, love, love. Now let's talk about the girls. These Sunbonnet Sues. In each of these blocks, the dress matches the hat. It's all coordinated. And then we have this beautiful embroidery. Now under the embroidery, you can see the black marks. And I'll show you another block in a minute with that on it too. I'm assuming it was an iron-on type transfer, but I'm not positive. I know you could get those at 5 and dime stores. You could get them through, I think, even mail order. So I think that's what's underneath because there is that black line or gray line underneath where the maker stitched. This fabric is appliquéd on and then stitched over top. What's really unique, at least in my opinion, is the quilting is done directly over the stitch line. So we know that the embroidery, well, the appliqué was probably done first and then the embroidery and then the quilting. So they didn't go around it or shadow it or whatever, went right over it. And within these blocks, the quilting lines are a grid and the quilting lines in the borders is a rope type design. So it just is really neat the way it was done. They just went right over it. I don't know if I would have done that. I think I would have really agonized over that and made sure that I went around, but nope, they just went right over it. Now another thing with these beautiful girls, and there's so many beautiful ones here. Let's look at another one. You can see this one here, and you can see some of the threads are coming out here. I'll probably tack that down, but you can see how pretty it is with the red. And let's look at another one. Let's look at this one here, because this is pretty. Now with this one, you can see how everything coordinates too. And there is some of that black line here that we see underneath the embroidery. So I don't know what that's about. It could have been a pen too that the maker used. I'm not even sure, but I love looking at it and trying to figure that out. All right, let's talk about one of the blocks in particular. It might be two. I have one in particular though that I think is fascinating. That's up here. So here you can see the lines where the embroidery and applique should have happened, but they appear to be upside down or backwards. So I don't know if they used the fabric and flipped it over, maybe did it on the wrong side, maybe traced it or ironed it onto the wrong side by accident, although I don't think there was one side or the other. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but there's definitely something here that was some sort of template of some sort that you can see with this block. Does it take away from the quilt? No. I didn't notice it until I started studying it. So, you know, as makers, we need to keep that in mind. Here's another thing that I know bothers me with embroidery when I do it myself. And it's so funny because this doesn't bother me at all in this quilt. You can see the embroidery floss shadowing through from behind. They weren't buried or tied in, which is fine. It doesn't take away from the overall look of the quilt. I mean, look at this quilt. Do you care? No. Do you notice? Not really. So it's one of those things that I think that we need, at least for me as a maker, relax about some of that stuff because it really does not matter. And like I said, there are some stains, some wear, especially on the binding, which we're going to look at next. It's obvious this quilt has seen some things and was mistreated for a very long time, and I'm glad that I can save it and help it, hopefully. All right, let's look at the binding. Now the binding is curved. You can see that hopefully here. And it's a scallop binding. It has a lot of wear, not unusual. It was used and everything, so we're gonna see wear on it. And it's that same fabric, like I said. It was completely put on by hand, and you can see if you peek inside, there is a cotton batting on the inside. The backing is the same fabric as the background and the sashing. It is pieced, but it is, I think, the same fabric. You can see the beautiful quilting lines on the back as well. It's so neat. I love this quilt so much. It just makes me happy to look at all of these Sunbonnet Sues or ladies or whatever you want to call them and look at the embroidery and how much time went into each one of these. The next thing I'm going to talk about, and I first want to preface by saying I'm not in any way picking on this maker. I think this is an incredible work of art. I do like to point this stuff out, however, because I think it helps us as makers see something like this that's so gorgeous and so put together and so beautiful, and it also has some things that maybe we wouldn't be comfortable with, and it's okay. It's okay. It's still a beautiful quilt, so we can give ourselves some grace. All right, so this last thing is that these ladies aren't even at the same level, okay? They're not placed at the same place. I don't know how to say that. Okay, let me show you what I mean though. So you can see that this lady is much further down in the square than this one. And I'm gonna grab a ruler to show you. So you can see they're not lined up. They're not at the same spacing on the block. This one's about an inch up from the bottom. This one's an inch, almost 2 inches up from the bottom. Did I notice this before I started looking at this to analyze it for this video? No, I did not. It was only afterward when I was taking some measurements that I noticed it. So let's be easy on ourselves with some of our work. Okay, let's talk about the lessons we can learn from this incredible quilt. The first one is about what we just talked about, and that's the levels of, or the distance, or the centering, or I'm not even sure, how would you say that, of these Sunbonnet Sue girls, or ladies, or whatever. They're not centered in the block, and that's okay. You don't notice it, especially with this incredible border technique. It works. You wouldn't notice it at all. Another thing I really love about this quilt is that these blocks were extended by adding borders to the blocks. And that's the second lesson I'd like you to take away from this. I love that the maker did that because it puts them in a frame. And if they used just the embroidered blocks, it would have been a much smaller quilt. Now this could have been a pattern. I'm sure it probably was a pattern. So whoever the designer was, that was smart of them too. Another thing I really love is the consistency of the fabric. So we're seeing that yellow fabric repeated again and again. Such a great idea with a quilt like this. It does give some consistency and a place for the eye to rest when we're making our quilts if we have something that's consistent. Not always, but it's always something to think about. It's just borders on top of borders on top of borders with this quilt, and I'm so here for it. Now, I do have a blog on this if you're interested in seeing more about this quilt, seeing some more close-up pictures, even seeing some more lessons. You can check that out. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you take some time to sew, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.